In this video, we will be learning about lists. To create a list in Python, we gotta use square brackets. Let's initialize a list of numbers and name it num. Give it square brackets and add some numbers in it. Now let's go over the mutable lists. With mutable lists, we can add element, update the existing element, or delete them from the list. Now let's see it in action. Print the list and run the code. We'll see the list has been printed to our console now. Let us add some elements to the list. We're gonna use append method for that. And I'm gonna add 90 to the list. Print the list again and run the code. Then we'll see 90 has been added to the list. Now let's update some elements from the list. In order to do that, we have to identify the specific location of the element that we want to update. Indexes start from the 0 as we know, which means the first element's index is 0. Shortly, if we want to update the element, we gotta use the indexes, so I'm gonna type 0. We should put it in square brackets in order to let Python know that we are accessing the first element from the list. Then give it a value, for example 11, and print the list again. And when we run the code, you will see 1 is replaced with 11. If we want to print only first number, which has index of 0, then we gotta use the same syntax, num square bracket and 0. What we're gonna see is 11 has been printed. If I want to access the second element, which has index as 1, we will type 1 and run the code. And we'll see 2 has been printed. So with that way, we can access the elements and also update them. If we want to access the last element from the list, we can simply use negative indexes. So list in Python has two types of indexes, positive and negative indexes, which start from the -1. Only difference is that the positive indexes start from the 0, while negative start from the -1. So the -1 index will be the last element, then -2 will be the last second, and so on. Let's print the last element from the list to check it. Print name of the list, square brackets, and -1. And when we run the code, we will see that the 90 has appeared because we have appended 90 to the end of the list. If we comment it out and run the code, we'll get 7 because we haven't added 19 in this case. So it will return 7 to us. Let's uncomment our code and try it. We will get 90 obviously. Similarly, if we type down 2 and run the code, we'll get 7 because 90 isn't added and 7 is at -2. So this is how we can access to the negative indexes. And if we wanted to update them, for example, let's update -2 index value with 22. We'll simply print list, which will return us 22 instead of 6. So this is how we can update the list. Now let's see delete function. To delete the certain elements from the list, we have pop method. If we use num.pop, it will remove the last element from the list by default. And when we print the list again and run the code, we'll see the 7 has been removed. The pop function also can return the number that has been removed. So if we want to print what has been removed, we'll type print and run the code. We're gonna see has been printed, which is removed from the list. We can also assign it some values. Let's type remove is equals to num.pop. Then when we print them, you'll see it has been printed. So this is how we can remove the element and access the element which has been removed. Now let us see how to remove the element at particular index. For example, if we want to remove 2, which has 1 as an index, num.pop and index 1. Print, then run the code. You can see that 2 has been removed from the list. This is how we can remove element at particular location. Then there is a case where we know what element gotta be removed but don't know the index of it. As a solution, we have remove method. To use remove, type the name of the list, then .remove, and the element that we want to remove, which is gonna be 6 for example, then print the list again and run the code. We'll see that 6 has been removed. Python firstly sees the index of elements, which is why it will delete the first 6 from the list. And if we want to remove the second one also, we gotta simply redo the same command, which is gonna return us the list without both 6. Just remember that when we want to remove 2 or more same elements in the code, it will only remove 1 when we type it once. Even if there exists more than 1 element, it will remove only 1. So this is how we use remove. If we want to remove all of the elements from the list, there's a method named clear. Let's see it in action. Print the number and run the code. You'll see all the elements from the list has been removed. Now, if we want to delete the list itself, then there's a keyword del. We will type del in front of the name of the list which I want to delete. Now, if we try to access it, we will get an error because the whole list has been deleted now. If we comment that out and run it again, we'll be able to access it again. So this is how we can delete the list. List is an ordered type data type. We can use indexing, slicing, and stride over any data type which is ordered in Python. Let's create the list name L and give it our values like 900, 800, 700, and 600. Indexing, as you know, is used to get access to any element from the list. Let's say L square brackets 0 and print it. We will see 900 has been printed. If we want to print the last element, we'll use -1. So this is how we can access the element from the list, and it's called indexing. Now let's see slicing. If we want to access particular portion from the list, we'll use slicing. Let's say we want to access elements from 900 to 700. Then we gotta type L square brackets, 0, colon, and colon is used to separate the two indexes. Let's say that we want to access the element up to the 700, then we gotta type 3 over here. And when we print the list, we will see 900, 800, and 700. That's it about using slicing. If we want to access the element from 800 to 600, then what we're gonna do is print log L square brackets till the 4. And when we run the code, we will get 800, 700, and 600. Now let's see how to use stride. So stride is used to skip certain element while calling out the element using slicing. If I want to access from 0 to 4th index, I'm gonna write print L log 0 colon 4. Then we gotta use stride, and for that we should add 1 colon again and specify how much element we want to skip. Let's skip every second element and run the code. You can see every second element is skipped. Here 0 to 4, that means we want to print all the lists by skipping every second element, which returns us 900 and 700. So this is how we can use stride. Now in lists we can use heterogeneous data types, which means we can add anything to the list regardless of its data type. Let's initialize a list with value 1, 2, 3, then add string to it, for example Python. Now add the list inside the list, let's say a list value 9988 and 77, and we can also add tuple inside the list. We simply should use square brackets to initialize a tuple and add some values to it like 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3. And this is how we can add any data types to our list that suppose heterogeneous data types. If we want to access certain elements, we can use indexing. Let's print certain values from the list. For example, the first value, which is 1, run the code, and 1 has been printed. Now let's print Python, which has index 3. Run the code and we'll get Python here. So let's take a look at printing element inside the list. List is presented at 4th index. And if we want to print 99, which has index as 0, we will simply specify it by writing another square bracket and putting 0 over here. When we run the code, we'll get 99. If we want to get 88, then we will use index 1. If we want to access the elements inside of the tuple, we can use the same syntax. Let's say the index of tuple is 5. We will type down 5 here, and then we want to access 33, which the index of it is 2. Run the code and we will get what we wanted. So this is how we can access the list inside a list or tuple inside the list by using another square bracket. Now let's take a look at how to use for loop list. If we want to iterate each of the elements from the list, we can use for loop. So for value in L is the name of the list I've given. Value over here will return each value of the list starting from the index 0. Let's print the value print file and run the code. You can see every value of our list has been printed. So this is how you can access the value using for loop. Then there's the append method, which we are already familiar with, that adds extra elements to the list, as we know. Let's add 900 to our list. Print the list and run the code. We can see 900 has been added. If we want to add multiple elements in the list at once, we can use extend method. Let's see extend in action. If I want to add 900, 800, 700 and 600 to the list at the same time, then we'll type extend and print the lists. And we can see all the elements has been added to the end. So this is how we can use extend method. If we want to use append to add multiple elements, then let's try that. Append 998877, print L and run the code. And here it is, another list has been added to our existing list using append method. If we want to add element without creating a list inside of the list, we can use extend method. The copy method. It is obviously used for copying the lists, as it's seen from its name. So let's see how it works. Create a list named L2 equals L and print L2. So the new list named L2 has been created. If we have removed certain elements from the first list, let's say we pop the last element and run the code. The last element from L2 will also be removed. So this is not actual copy of the first list. It is just L2 that is pointing to the first list. So let's create a real copy of our list by trying it on a new list named L3. We will type l.copy method. Let's print L3 and run the code. So L3 has been created. Now, if we remove certain element, for example the last element, which is 600, and print the original list, and then also print the newly created L3 list, we will see that the 600 has been removed from the original list but still remains at our copy. Shortly, to create a real copy for upper list, we use copy method. But to point another list to our original list, we just use equals sign. And that's it from this course.